I remembered something yesterday whilst watering my garden. I rushed inside and searched the internet over for something similar to what we encountered. After about an hour of useless Google searches, I find something quite similar, but at the same time very different. What am I talking about, and what did I find that was similar to it? Well, thing is, I remembered the finger crops. And searched for over an hour before finding another no-sleep guy that reported the entire hand plants. That would eventually grow replica people. While that was disturbing as all hell, I still felt it worth sharing our experience. So, there it goes. Back in the 70s, 80s, and even up to the early 2000s, tobacco was a major cash crop in our area. The majority of local families depended on money earned from tobacco sales in the fall to survive the winter, as well as to provide Christmas for their kids. It was a way of life. All spring long, the families would work to set their float beds up, styrofoam plates that held 24 seeds of tobacco plants. These would float on top of water with added nutrients inside built platforms. While the seeds were taking off, the winter's cover crop of clover would be ploughed under the ground to add more nutrients to the soil. The field would be rough ploughed in early spring. Then, when the seedlings had developed a root system, the field would be ploughed again, then diced and furrowed for rows. The plants would be set by hand usually. Later on, people would afford the setter attachment for tractors that would seat 2 people. Those 2 people would pluck plants from the float trays, set them in a wheel, and the machine would drop them in the ground a set distance apart. The plant would be left to grow until they developed flower tops. The tops would be cut or snapped off by hand to make the plant bush out. A couple months later, farmers would drop sticks down every other row. Then workers would cut the plants down and spear them through the stalk, on the stick. The cutters would swing very sharp specialized hatchet-looking things called tobacco knives. Each worker would cut 2 rows at a time, for the few cents a stick. Each stick would hold 6 to 8 stalks of tobacco. The sticks were left in the field for a couple of weeks before being collected and hung in the rafters of a barn to cure. In the late fall, workers would climb in the barns, drop the sticks down. Then, people would strip the leaves off the stalks and press the leaves into bales. Each plant has multiple types of leaves, and each type would be placed in its own bale. The bales would then be transported to auction where the tobacco companies would bid on the lot. I described the process so that you could see how hard these families work for that little bit of cash. Some years the price would be 50 cents a pound. Some years it was over $1 a pound. That's why there's different bales for different leaves. The better leaves brought better money, but companies wanted the other leaves, what we called trash as well, just for a much lower price. The families worked hard, lived hard, and just barely managed to make ends meet. Back then, the majority of local families lived at or under the national poverty line. Hard times all around. Classic, money's tight and times are hard, so here's your fucking Christmas card type situations. It had to be in the middle of the spring of '88 when this happened. I remember that because I had recently gotten married just a few months prior to the first finger being found. I was actually on my honeymoon, which we waited to take for financial reasons, when the first call came in. The mayor and even the county attorney had their panties wadded around their dangly bits. I was called at 3 in the morning, after only getting home at 1 in the same morning. I was ordered to do whatever I had to do, but to get my happy ass to the apartment post-haste. The bastards hung up on me. When I dragged my tired ass into the office, I was slightly shaken to see the entire force on duty, the mayor, the chief of police, and the county attorney all rather impatiently awaiting my arrival. I was greeted, not by happy friends, but by an entire building full of scared-ass cops and county officials. "Well, it's about fucking time. Welcome home, Sheriff. Now sit your ass down so we can get you caught up on this situation." The county attorney barked, before turning on a heel and leaving the room. 3 days ago, we received the first call. The Lawson's farmhand called 911, ranting and raving about fingers in the tobacco trays. Dispatch sent an ambulance and patrol unit to respond, thinking the kid sliced the fingers off at work. When they arrived on the scene, the farmhand, a Mr. Timothy Gray, was sitting on a tractor try, drinking from a glass bottle of whiskey. I feel the need to mention it was approximately 7:30 in the morning. The techs rushed to his position to examine the possible injury. I will now read Mr. Gray's response verbatim. "Not me, you dumbass. Look in the beds. Fuck it, I quit. Tell the Lawsons to keep the money I've worked off this week." He then drained his glass bottle and staggered to his camper trailer on the property. The deputy told him to stay put as he was drunk, and we would arrest him if he even tried to start his truck. It was at this point the other deputy decided to investigate. "Collins, tell the sheriff what you found," ordered the mayor. As Collins stood to talk, the mayor exited the room, but as he was leaving, he stopped at my desk and whispered, "Come see me immediately after you're briefed. Don't tell anyone, though." As I approached the float beds, I noticed a strange smell, like wood smoke mixed with strong hints of cat piss. Not just the ammonia used in the beds, this was something different. I raised the plastic coverings to examine the trays and, well, I just about shat myself, sir. We were a relaxed agency back then. I couldn't believe my eyes. Fingers, dozens of them, just wriggling around. Like a hand was under the trays poking the fingers through, except I pulled the tray out. There was no hand, just fingers. The first knuckle, where it would be attached to the hand, was growing up from the soil. Plucked one out of the dirt and, well, sir, it was still fucking warm. It had roots, red, and things just flowing from this round white bulb type thing, where the knuckle was. It just continued to wriggle for a while, but I could feel it getting colder and just started moving slower. I don't know why. Well, I put it back in the tray and put the tray back in the water. A few seconds later, the finger that was limp started to wriggle around again. And that's when he passed out. Thankfully, EMS was already there. Left Colin's partner, Todd Stone. It's the burst monkeys. That's what we called them. They called us bubblegum machines. Checked old Lightweight over there. I decided to take a look at the float beds. I can honestly say that was the single most disturbing thing I've ever seen. I've cleaned a cannibal murder-suicide alone. Those fucking things growing from the trays, just wriggling around, reaching for anything that moved. He finished, looking a little more than a bit sickened. I sent samples of the roots and entire finger plant to the college, and they still haven't gotten back to me. I can't even get a hold of the professor on the phone. From what I could see, and from everything I know, they're normal fucking fingers. Just with roots of some kind. And now, to add to this damn situation, we have 3 more farms within the last 24 hours. All reporting fingers in the tobacco trays, for a total of 11 farms affected, Terry the rookie said. I sat there, trying to decide if this was all a fucking prank or if it was honestly happening. I received my definitive answer a couple minutes later when the chief returned with a small clay pot. There were 3 fingers in the dirt. They was fucking wriggling around and were looking at me. I swear it sounds like a lie, but I swear these fingers could see. I moved my hand above them, they followed. I waved at them. They mimicked the movement. I flipped them off. 2 fingers folded down, leaving one standing up, kind of dancing in a circular motion. I stood and walked my ass to the mayor's office. When I walked in his door, he stood and walked to the door, locking it behind me. He proceeded to motion towards a chair and went back behind his desk. "I can tell you gotta see this sample here. I think we need this." The mayor of the town reached in his desk and poured us each a tumbler of scotch. As we sipped our drinks, he continued. "I think we need to call in some sort of alphabet squad to handle this, Sheriff. I just don't think we have the ability to handle this alone. Then, what about the families that were counting on the tobacco money? What to do about them? Half their crops are fingers. We confiscated them all, but that does nothing to help them." "Well, do we have any emergency AG funds left?" I mean, someone pays for the crops with mold damage, right? Oh yeah, sure, the Department of AG would love to pay for a bunch of failed crops due to finger infestation. I don't even know who to call about this shit. These things came from somewhere and we need to ship them somewhere too. They tried to destroy some as an experiment in containment. They don't burn. The charred remnants would reanimate with a single drop of moisture. Cutting them up forces them to sprout roots like eyes from a damn tater. The only thing I can figure is try to round them up and ship them off somewhere. I can look for other ways to help the families. I need you to go to the tax department and get a list of properties with tobacco bases. Then go check them out. I'll try to figure out what to do with these fucking things, and find a way to supplement the family's income this winter. I finished my drink and left his office, going upstairs to the tax office. I had the list printed out and found that 56 other farms in the county had bases. I split my troops into 7, each getting a cruiser or a country truck, and we tackled the list as an 8-headed worm. I took the most distant farms to the east, next to the wet county. Coincidence? Nope. My plan for going home that night included copious amounts of alcohol. The 8 farms in my list all turned out dry. I got a radio message from another trooper that stopped to render aid at the scene of an MVA, so I finished his list out for him. On the last farm of his list, I hit the motherlode. Every plant in the beds were wagging fingers. I called the mayor and he sent out 4 county pickup trucks with plastic in the beds so they could hold water. And we loaded every one of the fingers into the trucks. The family was devastated. They were counting on that money for living, not for comforts. Food, rent, shit like that. I teared up as I watched Jeb Tolson, a 6'8", 300-pound farmer, cry. He was devastated. He didn't know how he was going to feed his family for that winter. I gave him my card with my home phone number written on the back, telling him to call me if I could help at all. On my drive back to the warehouse, I contacted our game warden through the radio. I told him we needed to be a little more lax on some poachers this winter, and told him something had went wrong with a major chunk of the populace's bases. He was supportive of the idea, but did say anyone caught that did not actually need the meat would go to jail. The meat would go to charity, as usual for families that need a little extra help. I arrived back at the warehouse with the evidence, just as a few of the other guys were getting back. In total, after the roundup, there were 36 farms hit by what was snidely dubbed the finger bank. I'd later meet a few guys that the mayor called in, and I even called my brother. My brother is odd. He loves carnivorous plants. He has dozens of Venus flytraps, pitcher plants, and some type of thing that looks like a fucking meat flower. The meat flower, it's nasty. It smells almost like a corpse flower, but not too strong. Just strong enough to attract prey. The damn thing snaps shut when it's stimulated. It's disgusting. I was hoping maybe he could help. He couldn't, but the widow fuck did take several fingers to feed to his damn plants. I told you, it's fucking odd. However, I would get a call from my dear brother the next day. He tried to feed the fingers to the meat flower and pitcher plant. Evidently, when the meat flower snapped closed, the finger went fucking off. It managed to grow its fingernail enough to have something to cut the petals with. As the finger inside the meat flower struggled and fought, the others tried to crawl to its location, like they wanted to help. But the thing that I found most odd about this phone call was that my brother wasn't creeped out, but just pissed off because he paid like $3,000 for the meat flower. I told you, odd as fuck. We never found out what those things were exactly. They never grow any bigger. When one sprout dies, a new fingernail would be poking through the dirt in 24 hours. I know they can live for years at a time, don't care about temperature, but don't act as lively in the severe cold. The vast majority of the fingers were smuggled out west, somewhere in PNW. Some were kept, as souvenirs and for science. Of course, I'm sitting here watching mine wave at me right now. I kept a black one, a tan one, 3 white ones. I originally had 5 white fingers. When one dies, another grows, not always the same color or sex, not always different. They do not all have fingerprints. The ones that do never track to anyone, alive or dead. DNA reads as human, but a human that would never survive birth. They do not flower, they never develop beyond a finger. They do not grow any bigger than a normal human finger. The strange thing to me, anyway, is they don't grow like a human. They sprout a full-grown fingernail, and then the finger emerges fully over about 24 hours. I didn't find out where they came from, we never saw them randomly appear again, and we did not call the vet. We did pull some cash together, and all the guys got deer tags, and we hunted the film. We distributed the meat and cash among the families destroyed by the finger bank, and we helped them get gifts for the kids at Christmas, and we got them school supplies and a few outfits for the kids to start school. We couldn't replace the money they lost, but we did help some. Sorry if this one was a little long, but it had to be told. It had to be told so that I can tell the next story. The one that kinda hinges on you all knowing about this one. I guess I should have warned at the start that a lot of this would be talking about growing tobacco. Hell, I don't expect many to listen to this one. And I do expect folks to say I copied an idea from a very popular story. I have nothing to prove I didn't. Save for the fist flipping me the bird in the flower pot. Farewell till next time.